Wow, wow. All right. To those who will hear this in the future, for the few that are witnessing this, Sheldon, my wingman, thank you for being there. Thanks for joining me again. Appreciate you being there, buddy. We have TEX'S, and I got a chance to talk to TEX'S Wednesday night for the first time. I listened to a couple of shows. I'm like, this guy knows. He's got the full package going on. He knows what's going on. So I reached out to him, and immediately he responded, and then he agreed to come on my show and to join me. And I think that's just awesome. There's a couple things as far as business goes. Just a couple of things to remind people about. First of all, tomorrow morning, part 2 of our series, it looks like we're going with MK Davis will be joining me. And I'm hoping we go over the Lovelock Cave, some of the footprints they found, the handprints they found, some of the all sorts of other things. So this should be interesting. And then a guy that I never ever thought I would talk to, but I'm looking forward to talking to him, and we have different perspective on the world, is Sasquatch Ontario, Mike. And Mike agreed to come on and join me and discuss his experience with his Bigfoot. And we'll talk more about that. And yeah, that should be interesting. I've known about Mike for 6-7 years, and here I am talking to him. So, and then there's a few other shows coming on. We got Biggie coming on Thursday as well. Now we got the business out of the way. For those who are wondering, or will be wondering, where I've been, well, I was blocked or banned from YouTube from doing lives. And ironically, it was about almost 24 hours to the hour, if not maybe the minute, be the better way of saying it, from talking to TEX'S. And I just wonder how much of this is spiritual. And of course, they blame me for medical misinformation, which is nonsense, because I didn't say anything that wasn't being said on Fox News or a lot of the big channels. But here we go again. Yep. And the rodeo, man. Jeez. So, TEX'S, thank you for joining me, man.
Sorry, I had myself muted. I was doing some stuff trying to get us out, trying to get it spread out a little bit, and get some people in here. And
right. Hello, Brandy. Thank you for joining us.
That is my co-host, Brandy.
Hey, Brandy, thank you for being there. Yeah, if you guys could think about just subscribing to this channel, that would be great. If you didn't hear the intro, so thank you, Brandy, for joining us. TEX'S, pretty cool guy, man. So TEX'S, how long you been doing this? Tell us a little about TEX'S, because there's a lot of people, I guarantee you, on my end of things that probably don't even know who you are. As hard to believe as that is, but it's considering you've been around for so long.
Nobody special. I guess I started researching, I guess, about 2016 or 2017. It's just kind of, I hooked up with an old boy DDoS and out in Brown Springs, and then I had my first Bigfoot sighting with him. And then
when was this?
This was back, like I said, 2016, 2017, and actually co-hosted on his show for a while, and then some, things went sideways, and but that's neither here nor there. I mean, he's more bitter about it than I am, but
I know D. Me and D have our. We got history, believe me. So go ahead. I'm surprised. Here we are. Life is full circle. It's amazing how the things happen. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I started my own thing and doing things my own way, and put together one hell of a team. And you know, I can't credit myself for putting it together. If I'm completely honest, um, I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think there were other forces at work, divine intervention. The man upstairs think saw fit to put us all together, because the people that I have, um, I actually met Shell Squatched while I was doing the BDRP, and Bigfoot Michigan Rob when I was co-hosting over there, and then I went to do my own thing, and brought Shell Squatched on as basically my producer, and then after I got the show going, I ran into Jason McLean at the Jefferson Bigfoot conference.
Okay.
And me and him just we hit it off. And I asked him to come on the show as a guest. He did that, and we kept talking and talking, and then I popped the question, and so he became my co-host, and he's just a wealth of knowledge on the theological side, and just about everything. I don't think you can pick a topic that he don't know something about. I mean, but he's good. He has become one of my best friends. And then a buddy of mine that I have known since high school, we got back in touch, and he came on as an executive producer, and that's Van Buren Varieties. If y'all haven't seen his show, he doesn't do. If you want to break from the the controversial and the weird stuff and everything like that, he does. He's got a variety show. It's Van Buren Variety, and it's every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central. And he interviews like counselors, musicians, and that type of thing. For the most part. In fact, he's doing his 100th episode Tuesday. Let's see, and then I started talking to Rob a lot, and brought him on the show as a guest, and then we started talking a whole lot.
Right.
And then he was wanting to do a show, and I said I'll be more than happy to help you out any way I can. And we ended up doing a show together on my channel called Brunch with Bigfoot. Well, then we kind of turned it into his show with Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And of course, he's on other shows of ours that are on our channel. And he is doing his own thing too. Beyond BMR podcast and that type of thing. But he's got his own channel, Michigan Rob. And
which is how I discovered you. Right.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking about, because of DDoS, if you're interacting with DDoS, there's probably a good chance that you and I were interacting back in 2017 and we didn't, don't remember.
Probably.
Hopefully you're one of the guys that didn't crucify me, but throw me on the bus. I don't think
you were one of those. I was. I've never been like that.
I can't see you being that person either. I just find it fascinating. That's to me, it's interesting to see how things go. Kind of cyclical and go full circle, and you people that you might have are just maybe acquaintance with, and then 6 years later, I'm not talking to you. I mean, I don't. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
you know, and life goes on, and that's the way I look at it. You know, you get. Unfortunately, during life, you have to put some events and some people in your rearview mirror, and go on.
Yeah.
And some people have an easier time of moving on than others. They really do. I mean, that's just how it is. And as far as the me and D goes, I've never publicly said anything bad about him. I refuse to. I'm not going to get involved in all that bashing and stuff.
It's a good idea.
I decided to, because there was more than just me involved, in that I was responsible for it. That, I had other people on the channel and that were part of it. And so we just decided as a group to distance ourselves from the whole situation, not D in particular. It was the situation, and it caused a rift, and I knew it would, but I felt it was the right thing to do at that time. I still think it was.
Well, look where you were at today. You know what I mean? And you got much more freedom than before, and more, to be who you are.
That's true. But and don't get me wrong. When me and D were doing our thing, I had my own part of a channel, that I was doing, and that was great. But things happened that I don't really want to get into.
No, don't please. You don't have to do any of that. I mean, believe me, you don't have to do that.
I wish D the best. I really do.
I do. I do as well. I do.
He's doing his thing. I don't want nothing to do with him. I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't. I didn't have anything to do with anything that happened to him. Nothing, or none of his stuff.
Right.
So hey, good luck, buddy. I do. I wish you the best. But it's just come to that point to where we both need to, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing. Thumper's rule.
Yeah.
And that's the way I. That's the
way.
At
least not in this kind of forum. You mean private conversation. That's one thing.
Right,
but
right.
It's
so.
But yeah.
Anyway, moved on from that. But anyway, I met a young woman named Jessica Jones. She's a remote viewer, and that's very controversial, especially when when you're a man of God, and stuff like that.
She's on your show. She's on your show.
She had.
I just watched one of your shows with Jason. What's Jason's show again?
Jason McLean questions everything.
But does he have? Is that what his name is? Questions everything, or does he have a different show?
He also has his own channel called Serial Papers, and that was part of our channel for a while.
Okay.
And we stopped doing the Serial Papers on our channel, but he's still doing the questions everything.
Right.
So, and he's got a lot of irons in the fire too, and that's just it, man. If somebody can come on my channel and work with us, and they can springboard onto something bigger for themselves, I'm happy. That's what I want to do.
Right.
Okay. Right. If I'm a small stepping stone, because I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing, if I can be a stepping stone for somebody else, that's a proud moment for me. It's almost like, a proud papa, I mean, not that I'm responsible for anything. I'm just, I was a helping hand. And if I can take a small part in that, that's awesome. And that's what Jessica did. She came in, and she was on SOR, Spaced Out Radio.
Well, I
but
might
she
take you. Hey, taxi, I just might take you up on that offer. Not that you're offering it to me, but I just might take it up because I could use a little help right now, to say the least. Go ahead.
well, if it's nothing more than just getting somebody's name out there that's trying to start out or is having some problems or something like that, because we've been there. We're trying to crawl underneath the shadow ban thing. We were demonetized back in December.
Jesus, what did you give? Why? I don't understand why they're going. Well, I do know. We talked about it earlier, but I know why they're doing it to us. But
I think this one, the demonetization was my fault. It was a mistake. But
you say the wrong thing. Oh my gosh.
no, it was about reuse content and that type of thing. And I didn't really understand how it worked with all the shorts. I was new to that and stuff.
Okay, all right.
But I think that one was on me. But the shadow banning, I think that's probably coming from what you're talking about. They don't like the subject, and they
don't like us talking about the spiritual side of the subject and what the answer is.
Spiritual or otherwise, they don't like you talking about the truth.
They don't. No, they don't.
And but but anyway, she was able to do something very original with us. I mean, and the whole remote viewing is very controversial, because some people look at it as a, it takes you away from God. It's not, we're not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff. I don't know. Okay. The way I see it is, if you're blessed with being able to do something, why are we automatically going to assume that that's a nefarious, being giving you that power or that gift or whatever you want to call it? Why can't it? To me, that's just going right along with like the Spanish Inquisition. I mean, everything
sure
special
is.
An apothecary or anything like that was seen as a
Think of the Book of Enoch and think of Enoch and what he was doing, right? Think what happened to John the Revelator in the Book of Revelation.
Right.
It's how much of a difference is it really?
Well, it's really not. I mean, if honestly, it's, we talk about, as Christians or as people of God, you're going to get you're going to get persecuted along the way, because people don't agree with it and everything, especially, the devil's going to do everything he can to stop you.
I think so.
But the thing about it is, you got to look out for the sheep's and wolf, the wolf in sheep's clothing, because a lot of these folks, unfortunately, will, for lack of a better term, pretend to be people of God.
Kind of like really a politician. Kind of like
right.
A politician.
They have a hidden agenda.
They do. There's a lot of them out there. Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
There is.
It is.
And you really have to watch out for that.
I experienced it firsthand. So special warfare. So,
but but anyway, Jessica went and did her own thing, but she's still part of the team. She's still part of our little family we got going on. And if you can establish a relationship like that, where somebody goes off and does their own thing, but you still have a relationship with them, that's what it's all about. She still has us on her show. She co-hosts on ours every once in a while. She was on Friday night with the girls, and that's another group of people that I've ran into, that, the blondes and the boobs, and
Rob's in the house. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Yeah, well,
Oh, you brought the whole crew. You brought the whole crew.
I did. I told you I was going to bring some people with me.
Hey, man, you're the coolest dude. And please
we
subscribe to my channel because they zapped my last one and I'm trying to rebuild it. They literally, I don't know if you guys trying to hear this, but 24 hours after me and Tex talks, bam, they banned my channel from posting anything. So I had to start a new one. That's when I was only, give me a little love if you can, just so I can get,
and unfortunately, like you were saying, if you want to do something on this platform, you have to learn how to say things without saying certain things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
I have a hard time with that because I'm like an open book, and I have not listened, as I told you, and the 6th of January 2021, they zapped my channel along with thousands of others for speaking the truth. But you know what? I can't not say the truth. And you know what I mean? I feel like a responsibility to be honest to God and my neighbors and the country and everything else. And if it means I lose my channel and I have to start over again, if it's that one person I can help, does that make sense?
Right.
It's worth it to me. It's never been about the money. It's always been about the truth. So it's
and that's how I feel too. I mean, but when you get, I'll say this, and I hope people don't take it wrong. I'm sure some will, and that's okay. You can disagree with me all day long. You can call me whatever you want. Just, don't pick on the folks that that are on my team or close to me.
right.
But when you get to a certain point and you have other people involved and it's not just you, there is a fine line that you have to walk. Okay. Now you can get the truth out there and you can say pretty much whatever you want.
Right.
But there's just ways you have to do it. And I don't think, I don't think we've gotten away from our beliefs at all. What we believe is out there. Yeah. And, but we've been able to do it in a way that we're not only reaching a little audience, we're reaching a bigger audience. And that's a goal for us, to get out there more.
Yeah.
And
I just want to say before you go on, so keep your thought there, but I just want to say, everyone, here's the thing. It's not my business to tell you what God has called you guys to do. Right. I do believe everyone, and some, I am who I am. It's pointless not to be who I am. Right. Now, saying that, would I recommend that people follow my course of action? Not necessarily. I mean, it's there's just a lot of logic of what you're saying, and I thank God there was guys level-headed like you, and Rob and others that are willing to just maintain the course and make sure that the message is still getting out there, and then reach people from the periphery and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
If that makes sense. And then there's guys like me. There's guys like me. I mean, I'm hardcore. You know what I mean? It's like, I think it's in my blood. My brother was a Green Beret, and my, extreme fighter. My dad was, survived the, we talked about, my dad was, all-state tailback in high school and played for Army, right? And ended up in the Korean War. I mean, it's just in my blood to be. I'm like the guy you throw out in the front lines and he'd fall on the sword, if you will, and then blaze the way.
They call it cannon fodder, there, buddy.
Yeah, that's right. A bit of a cannon fodder, but somebody has to do it, and I don't. It doesn't bother me to be that person to do it, as long as
exactly. Somebody's going to go out there and take
back in 2017 and 18. I was talking this way in the Bigfoot community and bringing up the answer, the solution. And I told you, I mean, I was brutally abused, but you know what? Now I'm seeing 6 years later, and I'm not saying that I had any part in that. I think God had a part of that. When people are more willing to talk about the big picture now, right? Whether you believe in Jesus or not is never my business, right? It isn't, but I'm going to bring it up to you because it's my story, and that's what helped me. And when I was dealing
Right.
with this stuff, right? So I'm just bringing
Right.
that up, and so and and some maybe I
Well,
should be a little more wise about things, but thank goodness you guys are wise enough to keep it going. So if I
well,
fall,
I don't know
if I
about
if I
wisdom.
fall off the face again, at least the people are hearing about you guys on my channel, and that they'll go to you and remember you guys if I do fall off again. You know what I mean?
Well, I
Which
think
is probably going to
I
happen.
think I think the biggest difference between us and a lot of other channels, we refuse to get drawn into the drama. We put ourselves out there. We're no drama llamas. We interview people that don't like each other. But it doesn't matter. We're kind of like Switzerland. We're neutral ground. You know. Um,
Yeah, I see that.
because
I
we,
like you
we
guys.
we're not going to talk about other people's problems with this person, that person. We're not going to do that.
Yeah,
We don't even talk about problems that we have with other people ourselves. Because it's not a place for it. In my mind, people are not there to hear about that. When they come to us, they're there to hear about the subjects. They're here to hear our thoughts on it and some information that we may have picked up that they didn't know, and also to see the evidence that we bring forward. And it's I don't think anybody can fault me for that. But if you want to, you go right ahead. But I'm not going to get involved in the drama. You know what? I got better things to do.
I
There's
can't
better.
imagine anybody having an issue with you, Tex.
Well, they do. They do.
They do.
There's a few out there.
Well, that's
You
something
know,
about them. I don't know why anybody
and
have
well, and that's okay. If they have an issue with me, they have an issue with me. I don't really care. But it. Brandy said, "Yeah, we don't take sides because that's not what our channel's about. Our channel's not about that. We're about getting the truth out there. We're about exploring every aspect that we can. We get beat up for having. I've interviewed a witch on my channel. And but the thing about it is the way I see it is knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
And the more we know about these subjects and about everything, the better armored we are. And that's when it comes down to it. That's really what it's all about. Especially when I go out in the field, I want to know as much as I can. You're not going to know everything there is to know. There are no experts in this field at all. I'll never claim to be, and I'll argue with anybody that says I am. But I've dealt with a lot, and people don't agree the way I research. A lot of people don't. Because when I go out, I'll call these critters out, spiritually and otherwise. I don't care, because somebody's got to go out there and somebody's got to roll around in the dirt with these things, and get dirty. And I would rather it be me.
There's a lot of logic in that approach, by the way. I mean, when I call upon the Lord of all spirits, the Most High, the Creator God, and I do it out loud, and with some passion and conviction, I have never once not ended up having quote unquote encounters and experiences and seeing things and filming things. It's almost a guarantee. So, in fact,
Right.
It might not happen that day, but soon after it's going to happen, right? It's going to happen,
Right.
Because I think that the spiritual realm, the thing that's around us, these things that are in the ether, whether in these multiple dimensions or whatever, they can hear us. They recognize what's going on, and it's just listen. We have every single culture that's ever existed until the past 150 years recognized this. Didn't have a problem with this, but all of a sudden with a Western education and then dumbing us down a big side of us, which I do believe is the spiritual side, it's like becoming it's just basically it's only for horror movies and for the cinema and for books, right? But in reality, it's always been there. So
Well, and the thing about it is, you know, one of the driving forces behind us and our group is it's like you said earlier. We're there to help people because there's a lot of people out there that have these encounters that it's a very traumatic event for them,
Oh yeah,
and
it is.
they don't have anywhere to go. Sometimes you can't even talk to family about it. And if we can provide
What happened
a
to
safe
me?
platform, if we can provide a safe platform, and that we're not going to judge it, and that's the thing about it is, just because you haven't experienced something doesn't mean that somebody else didn't. I mean, I've
It's true.
interviewed people like myself that just saw something run across the road. I've interviewed people that claim to have gave birth to 12 alien hybrid children. I mean, the list goes on. You know, when you get into the whole mind speaking aspect of things and a lot of that, I have different views on it than um, most of, or not most of, but a lot of people that I have on the show, even very, very good friends. I don't dismiss anything. It's just I haven't experienced it yet. If I do, I'm going to be the first one to come on here and go, you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
This happened to me, and I'm not going to hide it. You know, we had a lost time incident in the field several years ago, and we lost several hours. You know, we don't know what happened. Me and Dee, we don't know what happened to us.
Nothing
We
shocks
never
me
suffered
anymore.
any ill effects of it that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But you know, it's Jessica remote viewed it. She says, we were abducted by aliens. And I don't know I haven't made up my mind about the whole alien thing yet. So I'm still processing this whole stuff, because she told me things that
I just wonder sometimes if we're using the wrong term for it. That's the only thing I'm saying, right? You know what I
it's
mean?
very possible.
It's kind of like Bigfoot. From all my experience, my encounters, my own research, it's like we talked about this before too, right? On Wednesday, it's like 10% of it is Bigfoot. The
Mm-hmm.
90% of it is everything
Right.
that's associated with Bigfoot, but we label everything as Bigfoot
Right.
because I think a lot of it is because of our own ignorance, and we're trying to figure it out collectively and as in groups and all that. And it's only going to it will take time. It just has to take time because of it's only really now, if you really pay attention, although there's always been researchers, it's only been and from what I've been paying attention, especially the past, I would say 7 to 8 years, that is slowly progressing to get to this point where a guy like me and Tex can have a show and have this kind of conversation. You know, I mean, we come from different parts of the country, never would even have met each other in a million years if it wasn't for the internet, right?
Right.
So now we can have this conversation, will now lead it to the next level of understanding, but we have to go through all this messiness to get to truth.
And we've got so many different people on our team that bring so much different stuff to the table. It's fantastic. I mean, we've got I almost consider Jason our grounding rod as far as God goes. Then we have Randy Gilbert, which is another guy that I've known I've known him since he was in middle school, and he's our tech guy, and he's also very versed in paranormal investigations. Well, then you have we we've we we were blessed to have the Blondes and Booze, Krista, Aaron, and Brandy join us.
It's such a good name, isn't it?
I know, right?
Gets a man thinking, that's for sure.
No, it's an ongoing joke, and they know it. They love it, but they are themselves very, very versed in demonology. Um, Aaron is a psychic medium. I mean, and Brandy is Brandy's the female version of me. She's the nut job of the pack. She's the one that's going to go out there and go and hear a noise and go towards it. Um, it's not because we're brave. It's because um, we're a little bit touched in the head.
Well, yeah, I think eventually somebody has to do that too, right? I mean, it's part of the gig. I mean, someone has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If every single one of us picks up our stuff and runs in fear, I mean, we're never going to get too close to what's really going on. So it's good to have people like you.
And that's one of my pet peeves. You watch all these shows about these ghost hunters and even these Bigfoot shows, and the first noise they hear or something happens, they want to turn around and go back home. It's like, this is what you came out there for. You better be prepared to run into it. And you can't just, oh no, and that's just not that's just not how we operate. That's just not. It gives us, and I know this has happened. Oh man, this has happened a lot. People will contact me and they're like, well, Tex, I've got this problem, this problem, this problem. And I'll say, well, I don't think I'm the one to help you with that, but let me refer you to Jason. Let me refer you to, Rob. Let me refer you to Krista or Brandy or Aaron, and it's no, War Criminal is right. She is easier on the eyes than I am. She gets some braids going. She's got the whole Swiss Miss thing going. So,
no argument with that one.
But I think all these different, they're tools in a tool belt, and that's the way I see it. All of us, if I haven't dealt with something but somebody else has, I can go to them, or they can come to me, or however it may work out. And
sure.
I think I got asked one time, what do you think sets our group apart? And honestly, I think the key word is respect, because we respect what we're dealing with, but more than that, we respect each other.
Some age helps too. Some life experience and age helps too. Some maturation helps a lot.
Yeah. I don't think that. I think it's very arrogant to assume that you know everything about everything. You don't.
I do. What are you talking about?
And
I'm the closest thing to God. What are you talking about? I know everything.
Right. It's when you and I've said this before, and I think I mentioned it to you too, when you go out in the field, and we were talking about, you mentioned it just a little earlier about these things, knowing about what what you're all about, basically.
Right.
And if it doesn't matter if it's the physical creatures you're dealing with or something on the other side, that you can talk all the talk you want, like on here or whatever platform. But when you get out there in the field, whether it's a haunted house, whether it's you're looking for Bigfoot, Dogman, it doesn't matter. And if you're not true to yourself in your heart, That's where faith comes in. And if you don't have that, that leaves a little chink in that armor, and that's all they need. If you're looking, if something nefarious, or evil or whatever is out there, then you're dealing with it. In our belief, and I mean me and you,
Right.
if you don't have the faith in the Christ Almighty, there's your chink in the armor. If you don't wholeheartedly believe in that, then you are leaving yourself open, and you don't even know it, because you've convinced yourself that you're all this in a bag of chips, and you're not. And once you get out there, you're going to find out when you get home and something's got followed you home that you already said that couldn't follow you home. But the thing about it is, and I don't think a lot of people realize, you can be born again. You can be washed in the blood as all you want. But but every time you go out and you deal with this stuff, it's like you're on a clean slate. Okay. You better armor yourself up every time you go. And doing that is different for everybody. Okay. My relationship, and I said this on air, and I think you caught this, my relationship with Jesus and God is a very, very intimate and personal thing with me.
Has to be, yeah.
Okay. Exactly, Brandy. Science will never replace faith. And Rob said something the other day on a show that I used to say a lot. I'm not a religious man, I'm a spiritual man. And a lot of people, I got beat up for it. A lot of people were like, well, that doesn't mean the same thing. In my heart, in my mind, it did. But to clarify it, I had to change what I was saying. This is what I was telling you a while ago. You kind of have to say what's in your heart, but without saying certain things. What I meant by that, and I've rephrased it. I'm a man of faith. Okay. I'm not a religious man. I don't go to church every time the doors are open, but I don't think you have to. Anytime there's two or more gathered, that is a place of worship, right? And I think it's further than that. I think it's deeper than that. I don't think you have to have two people.
I have pretty strong feelings about that, Tex, when it comes to whether you're going to go to the church or not. And I would strongly recommend, for the most part, you'd be better off not to go in these buildings. Well, honestly, now because there's listen, it doesn't replace it's at the end of the day, it's about belief, faith, trust, hope. And if you're hoping that's going to happen in a building with a group of people that don't even know, no, you can make friendships there if you want, but you're not going to find a relationship with God through somebody else. You have to do it yourself. It has to be you. It's uno. That's what it is. And wherever God takes you is where He takes you. That's the part of gigs. So He might take you to be, a Bigfoot researcher of all things.
Well,
a cryptid researcher.
and I've gotten beat up for this statement. And it's just a what if situation. Okay, I would like to believe this. Well, I'll put it that way. You have all these different religions, okay, and I mean everything from Catholic to Protestant to Muslim to Buddhism, everything, okay? Yeah. What if that God presented Himself to us as Christians the way we believe Him, okay? and he presented himself that way. One of these undiscovered tribes that's never had, Western influence or anything. What if he presented himself to them as their sun god? Okay. But that's the way he got in their hearts.
Right.
So he could save them. But he knew in his wisdom, and he has ultimate wisdom, we know that he said, these people will accept me more or easier this way than these people do this way. Okay. I like to think like that, but everybody on this planet has a chance. Now don't get me wrong. If you flat out deny him, and slap him in the face every time he tries to come to you, you're going to have a problem in the long run. But what if we're all, in all these religious conflicts all over the world that we've had for thousands and thousands of years, what if we, when we pass on, we get upstairs, we all find out, oh crap, we were all on the same team, just fighting over words.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what if, and I would like to believe.
I don't think it's that unreasonable with that question. It's a very honest and a very useful and question. And
I get beat up a lot because it's a very progressive look. It's a, look at things. It's a very.
I could go much deeper if you want in that.
Well,
I can go, and it'd be much in line with what you're saying. And it just put it this way,
it's a liberal view on a conservative issue. How's that sound?
There you go. Believing in God. There is a creator, and then there's religion, which is man-made constructs, man's attempt to understand his relationship with God. That's what it's about. Now you have your options in life. Do you follow someone else's path or someone else's direction, another man's, or do you say, you know what, maybe it's time that I go and pursue God his and my own terms?
Right.
That straight and narrow path that can only be found. You become a religious person, and the religious mind can be quite dangerous. But a man that has a desire, or a woman has a desire for a relationship with their creator, you can call it spiritual or whatever. In the end of the day, it's about having a more full experience in life, the fullest that you possibly can while you're here. And that's what we're all searching. We're searching for meaning in this place. And for many of us, it's only come through having that desire to know our creator and to pursue it, right? So it's not really, it's not even necessarily, I don't know, sometimes the spirituals, I understand where people are coming from, I think. But then it's just like everything else. It's like the word love. Everyone has a little bit different understanding what love is or spirituality is. But I think there's this longing that's in everybody's heart somewhere to belong. There's something greater than themselves. And as time goes on, you realize that a job or an institution, even though your beloved wife or husband, is not going to fill that hole that's in your heart. And the only way to do that is to pursue that higher intelligence, the creator God. It's just simple. It's really simple, but it's we are convinced through all the other, these, like from our education and from group pressure and all that even talking this way is somehow wacky, shallow, but it's far more deeper and far more meaningful than, a more based, humanistic approach. Even Nietzsche said, who didn't want anything to do with God, he said, thank goodness you people believe in God. That's basically what his thank you guys believe in God. I don't need them, but thank goodness you guys, for many reasons. So it's not so far-fetched. I just think what we do and I've seen this in myself and others, is through our religious training, our limited understanding, our desperate need to try to be correct or right about our worldview, that we end
Mhm.
up fighting and arguing about things that if we, and it seems that we argue about beliefs. If we know something, we have no need to argue. We don't
Right.
even care if you even accept the fact that we know. That's where I
Well,
come to it. If you don't accept what I know, if you think I'm full of crud, hey, I understand because I was there once. I'm not going to
yep.
push my stuff on you. You know what I mean? So sorry about that. I can get on, those that follow me know I can get on a soapbox and I can go and go. So let's go back to
I,
the real.
I've been known to jump on that soapbox a time or two. Most of the time, it's when I get riled up, but I try not to do that very often. Because, but of course, technically, I guess I could. One could argue that that's what I do on a weekly basis is get up here on the soapbox. But I
Sure.
try not to force my views on anybody. Um, but I will sit down and share them with you all day long. But I'm not going to sit there and beat you over the head with it either. Because when it comes down to it, you've got to make your own decision.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And by the way, this is an extremely important conversation that I don't see anything wrong being part of the equation when it comes to
I don't either.
the Bigfoot community or cryptid research or the paranormal. Because you know what? Little secret, these conversations are being done in private already, anyways.
Oh yeah.
So why not bring it up in the open and say, hey, there's something more going on here. What's going on? Is it such a terrible thing to dig into the religious texts and it doesn't have to be just solely the Christian text. And is it such a terrible thing to even talk about the idea of God? We're kind of, listen, I'm 55 and I can honestly say, just see, I started believing in God. I was searching for God long before that when I was an
Right.
alcoholic. That was 20 some years ago when I was active in AA. But when my son was born, that's when I started to take it seriously about believing in God, right? And I've gone through, 12 years of, just intensive research study and everything, hoping that through religion or this or that, I get all the answers. And it's kind of like full circle for me has been like, well, Mike, I was always there all along. You just were hoping that somebody else was going to give you the answers instead of letting me give you the answers. And part of that I've discovered is he's not talking to me like Mike, conversation. It's just he leads me to a person like Tex or someone else, and a little bit of information sticks in between my thick skull, and I have a different and greater. But the more important thing is this is what I discovered, Tex. No matter what I think I know, what the difference is there's peace in my heart.
Yep.
That's the answer.
Yep.
And so, and and I do believe that there's without that. I mean, I know what it's like to live most of life not having that peace and constantly searching, trying to find external sources to find that peace through jobs and women, being a musician, my art, blah blah blah. And in the end, I do have peace in my heart because it's one of the weird things that happens when you pierce into the darkness. What little dim light you have, it does something. First of all, it widens your reality, broadens your perspective and understanding of what your reality is, right?
Right.
And then it leads to acceptance and understanding and acceptance and peace. That this is the way this place is. I'm not comfortable with it. But why am I not comfortable with it? Is because of my own ignorance and misunderstanding. So, as the old saying goes, when you let go and let God, makes life a lot more interesting, a lot more enjoyable. And I do agree with you. Basically, what you're saying is like, just because I find this interesting too, because Some of my best friends aren't Christians, and and probably my worst enemies would be call themselves Christians. When I
Hmm.
say that, I mean they're like literally, throw me on a bus any chance to get, and and tell everybody, that I'm a sinner going to hell, and all this stuff, and that I'm bad and a bad influence and all that. But the beer, it doesn't matter what group you are. There's going to be good and there's going to be bad people, and there's everyone else in the middle, and everyone's just trying to figure out. So, but I think what I've learned, and I know for a fact, what I've learned, if I can learn, like, and you bringing this up as well. So, hanging out or talking to, say, someone who's a witch, who has a different perspective, will lead you to a little bit, some data and information to understand this world better. Don't focus on judging the person. Don't
Right.
judge the messenger. Figure out what's in the message and what is useful or not. And this can also be with, I mean, I have had conversation with Satanists. I have. And I've also had, and by the way, I've also had bad things happen to other people who are Satanists and witches against me as well, spiritual warfare. But I've also had bad things happen to me from people who call themselves Christians and to go to church on Sunday, and they know how to quote every verse out of that book, man, out of context, by the way. But that's regardless of the point. But they'll make sure that they'll use it against you. So I think what it is um, as a wise man or woman is willing to learn from different elements, backgrounds, and people to build a larger, more sound, reasonable, rational picture of your world. Does
I'll
that
tell
make
you
sense?
what. I'll tell you what one of my problems is with people that get on their soapbox about how godly they are, is they end up talking more about themselves and building themselves up with the scripture than they do anything else.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, that's why I have a big problem with a lot of these evangelistic people, preachers that are out there that are flying these jets and all this kind of stuff.
And so you
It's
should. All right.
it's they they make themselves out to be the one to be worshipped and not who they should be putting out there, which is, Christ
Yeah.
and the Lord. And that's what bothers me. I have a problem with somebody if I can't sit down and have a normal conversation with you without you beat me over the head with scripture every other word, that says something about you. You can't have your own conversation. You know, um, I'm not saying quoting scripture is a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But when you use it to boost yourself in somebody else's eyes, that's a problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah, when you use it as a spiritual and psychological weapon against people,
Mm-hmm.
it's wrong. It does more damage than good, and it is a facade. It is
Yeah,
a
a lot of people hide behind it.
That's right. Great. So you can quote all these scriptures, and most times out of context, by the way. And why do I know that? Because I mean, you're talking to a guy that's read the Bible all online from Genesis, the very first chapter, to the very last chapter twice, and read the New Testament at least 4 or 5 times online all the way through. And just to give you an idea of who I am, and the more and more I study, the more and more I have a lot more empathy and sympathy for people in this world who don't see things the way I do. And here's the thing, especially the outcast, because what I've discovered in my past 6 years, whether it was the Christian community, especially when I started having these encounters, they were real and traumatic and devastating in 2017. There was nobody there to help me. Hear what I'm saying. So the Bigfoot community nobody was interested in helping me, or even hear my story. Right. The Christian community, I was terribly abused and mocked in the Christian community, right? The shamanic communities and the indigenous communities, they didn't help me. They took advantage of the situation. Not everyone, but the few of them that
Right.
showed any interest. And what it did, ironically, is it forced me to go inwardly and to go to God. And because of all that, I truly believe I have a relationship with our Creator. I mean, I know I have one, but it's my own personal one, and I'm okay at 55 years of age. Of course, you know, the older you get, it becomes easier.
Well, yeah.
But I have I'm perfectly fine not belonging to any group or belonging anywhere. As long as it's to God, I'm happy with that. Does that make sense?
It
You
makes
know what I mean?
perfect sense.
Yeah,
You know,
so
the thing about it
peace.
is, and this is the way I look at it. Okay. One, I wish we had gotten in touch, but I will say this: there's a reason we didn't.
Oh, yeah.
Everything happens for a reason, and a lot of the, a lot of people, when it's going to sound funny, I guess, when I at the last of it, but a lot of people, the only time they call on God is when something bad's happening to them.
It's true.
Okay. They forget about the good stuff. When it happens, they forget to thank him. But when the bad stuff's happening, the way I try, and don't get me wrong, it's hard to look at it this way, and it's hard for me to look at it like this all the time. I struggle with it, and I think everybody does. That when you're going through the bad stuff, I look at it, or try to, that he's tempering you like a blade. Okay. He's forging you. And when you come out on the other side of it, better than you were when you went into it like you did, you're a better man now. Right?
I would like to think so.
And that's I
yeah.
think you are. I think you came out of it on the other side stronger in your faith and stronger as a man or as a person. And that's I went through some pretty rough stuff in my past life, and relationships and that and all that kind of stuff. But I came out on the other side of it, and I came out on the other side of it a better man and a stronger man in God. And that is, to me, that is as important as a message to get across to anybody as anything out there. It's if you get in a fight, if you don't learn something, win or lose, if you don't learn something from that fight, you're gonna get your ass whooped on the other one, on the next one.
It's true.
And I think that's how we're meant to be. We're meant to learn something from these struggles, and pass it on to other people.
To me,
the way I see it.
The answer to me, at least the lesson I've learned, is that the only answer is God. We call him God, we call him Creator, we call him Heavenly Father, we call him Overlord, we call him those sorts of names for it. But at the end of the day, this source, this force, this spirit, we believe as Christians believe he's spirit, right? Spirit and truth, and that's where and I'm not saying that there's not a need for companionship with other human beings. Obviously there is, right? We need it. We're doing it right now, right? So the thing is, though, ultimately, at the end of the day, when the chips are down, when there's nowhere else to go, which I had to go through, and by the way, it was only a portion when we talk about the Bigfoot community or the Christian community.
Right.
I mean, everything was taken from me. He has literally forced me to or it was forced me, depending on how you want to say it, to turn to him. That's it. And so that's how I get through a day. That's why I have hope to get through a day.
Yeah.
A lot of guys who are going through what I've gone through would have ended their existence there. They just said no hope. But for me, it's like, I got to this sense. I said, okay, got it. I wake up and what I'm supposed to do today. Oh, I'm supposed to reach out to people. When is going to happen? Oh, I found TEX'S. I found Rob, and then I found TEX'S, and I also talked to Dennis. He was on my show on Friday. Although you guys, none of you would know it because the channel was taken down. But which is interesting. Whenever these anyways, but the way how it works out, so it will all work out in the end. So yeah, I totally agree with you. So it's interesting to go back to this whole thing about Bigfoot research, cryptid research. Dude, a lot of people I've noticed, they go out there. So I went out there. The reason I did it is because I wanted to prove that the Patterson film was a government psyops, right? That's my whole, because I didn't believe in Bigfoot all that. My big brother said he saw Sasquatch in Northern California. Him and his wife did. And which he corrected me about a month ago because I've been saying it was him and his son, and all this time it was me and my wife. What are you talking about? Oh, okay. Anyways, he's been in California forever. So I hadn't seen anything. I went out there, it's just another government psyop, just more. And boy, within 6 months in that year, by the end of 2017, I already had 2 close-up encounters, multiple sightings, and I'm trying to reach out to people, and everyone's they think I'm full of crap, I'm delusional, or I want some attention, right? Which I did want attention. I wanted to understand what the heck I was going through. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, it's not like, then you have the stuff happen. I mean, it's like, it's more than devastating.
Mm-hmm.
It's life altering, and but actually, that's the reason why I even believe in Jesus, because
Well, the problem,
honestly, that's the reason I believe in Jesus. Point.
What I don't get is you've got all these people in this Bigfoot community. I use that word loosely.
Right.
That will sit here and talk just like we're talking about, safe platforms and all this kind of stuff. But when somebody wants to tell their story, they belittle them or they don't believe. You're doing the exact same thing that you're preaching against.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to do. That's what we wanted to, as in our group. It's what we wanted to do different. Just because you have a story that may not be like all the others that we've heard or mine or whatever. Why am I going to cut somebody off at the knees when they're trying to tell their story? Just because I didn't experience it doesn't mean they didn't.
Oh, yeah. I think a lot of it is social pressure. I think a lot of it is we're talking about grown men now.
Well, yeah.
We're talking about grown men. They're probably in their 40s and 50s. They're still worried about social pressure and what people think about them.
Right.
And they're worried about, so listen, I would more than happy if someone said that they had an encounter with something like a Bigfoot or a Dogman or some other kind of cryptid, and they called upon the name of Allah and it went away. Well, cool. That's part of your story. Share it to me. That's how I'd see it. I wouldn't judge them for their story. You know what I mean? What if it was a Native American and they called upon their elders or whatever it was and it went away? Would we have a problem with that?
Right.
It's like we've been conditioned to think that we have to take sides in any of this. How about the side of pursuit of the truth? And just not worry about sides to take. You know what I mean? Because maybe that might help us all out in the end. You know what I mean?
Just in case nobody knows, my wife just texted me. I got disgusted with the halftime show and left the game. But
what's that?
Chiefs win 38-35. Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah, well, cool. Let's go back to talking about this stuff. I used to really love football. Obviously, you can see I got the Ohio State.
Well, The reason I mention that is I think Rob owes me another steak dinner. He's gonna learn. He can't make wagers with me.
What did you guys? I was listening to the show, and you went to some restaurant and you got a steak and you did something to it that ruined it.
Oh,
what was it you do
we
again?
went out to eat the other night. And I had a chicken fried ribeye. It was on the menu, and I thought I'm going to try this. And yeah, that was blasphemy. That's the worst thing you could do to ribeye is what everybody was saying. And you know, I thought that way for a long time. I really did. But I'm thinking, and I got to thinking, I said, you know, everything's great chicken fried.
Right.
You can't hardly beat a ribeye. A chicken fried ribeye? How good is that going to be? I was really disappointed. But I won't do it again.
Really that is the most. When I was listening to it, I'm trying to rationalize and even think of that must. Well, I think you guys said it must be you made fun of us Yanks up here, and I'm like, we don't have anything like that. We don't. I never heard of such a thing. That's got to be somewhere deep in some lost, vacant place in Texas, of all places.
we will
Texas, you might be able to find something like that.
I'll tell you something about the South. We will chicken fry anything. Because if it tastes like crap, you chicken fried it, all of a sudden it's good to eat something.
So, and as far as the football game, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to offend anybody, but I'm like, we're having this intense, meaningful conversation, and I'm like, yeah, cool. I mean, it's funny, after all these years, I used to be really into football. I was, because my dad and I played football. Didn't go as far as my big brother. He ended up getting his football scholarship in college and wrestling scholarship. I didn't grow. I went a different direction. But saying that, I still was into it. But it's like I look back and I go, well, okay, that Super Bowl game that I watched back in let's say 2002, 92. Who won? I can't even remember who even played in that game. I'm like, and I got buddies. They remember every stats that there ever was for the past 50 years, and I'm just like,
Well, we all have different interests that we pay attention to,
Yeah,
like Rob is a big sports guy. Rob is a huge sports guy, and I can carry on a conversation about it because I am interested in it. I played football, I rodeoed, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But it's. And I'm not near as into it as I used to be.
I think this past 3 years changed a lot for me. I don't know about you. My interest. It's just like everything that happened. A lot of the things that I believed in or kind of believed in were so shattered. I'm just like, I'm just not into it anymore. So sports, I'm just not into it anymore.
I got to tell you, and honestly, the halftime show. I was I got disgusted with it.
I know it's always some pagan satanic ritual. Why do I want to watch this?
Well, it was Rihanna, okay, and she just had a baby about 2 weeks ago, from what I understand. And then that's great. She's up there, she's dancing and all this kind of stuff. And then she reached down, rubs her crotch, and smells her fingers.
Wow, that's really deep. Good job, gal.
A dance move. And
I know. Well, Michael Jackson, remember what he was doing? So
but then she goes on to dance with all these dancers she's got in a very sexual way, and I'm like, what the hell happened to this being a family show?
What happened? Yeah, I know. There used to be about football.
The moral compass just went absolutely out the window here. And I'm like, I'm not watching this anymore.
Yeah,
I got up and all that. And that was, that was when me and you were texting back and forth and, just before the show and everything. And I was like, well, it's a good timing because I'm ready to get up from this. I'm done, and
I can't even stomach television anymore. I have to be honest with you. I haven't watched television for 11 years. And the only reason I even watched it then was because my son's mother was pregnant at the time. So,
Right.
and so we were, sitting around watching television, rubbing her feet. But anyways, yeah, I just can't stomach it. I just don't.
Well,
What's up? What's up, Jared? Jared's in the house.
most of what I watch are documentaries. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
I will say this: I do watch Yellowstone.
that's all right.
And I'm a huge horror fan. I really am.
Right.
Um, and and I've and a lot
Oh,
of
it's
people.
interesting that story during that conversation, that video that was talking about with the was it deep what was that
Yeah.
steak incident, was that you were talking about that video, which is the first time that you actually had some kind of really bad
Oh man,
experience watching the video.
yeah, that movie. I just now got chills. Um, I've only seen one movie. I'm sorry, two movies that creeped me out. But being creeped out, that's what they're trying to do. Okay. This was a whole different thing. I'm watching this movie, and honest to God, it got darker in the room. And there was a heavy presence, and I'm like, this is not good. And this thing is carrying something with it. I just felt like that. And it was just, I'm like, nope. I mean, I watched it all, and and the feeling left, and I think it's because I shook it off. But um, it just it bothered me, and that's the first time I've and this comes from somebody that's seen every Faces of Death volume there is out there. I, I
Yeah.
didn't. This was a fictional movie, and I'm like, there is something dark here, that's attached to this movie. And I'll tell you guys, the name of the movie is Smile. It's a new movie, and I don't know, about halfway through it, man, I'm like, there's something going on here. This is deeper than just a movie.
I think there's a lot of things going on. I think that people don't
Mhm.
understand that the people that make these movies understand a lot more what's going on than we do, as far as maybe the ritualistic aspects of it and the
Well,
introduction of something dark.
it's like, and Jason talked about this. You've got um, the Marvel movies putting out actual rituals and stuff, and they
Yeah,
say, and they've got people that's in these, the occult reaching out to them, goes, this is our stuff. This is real stuff you're putting out there, and they're surprised by it. They're like, well, that's just something we came up with. Well, what does that tell you? Something is driving you other than what needs to be driving you. Something's trying to get its message out there through you. You need to take notice of that. But there's so many people that are agnostics or whatever you want to call them. I go, ain't nothing to all that spiritual stuff. I got news for you.
I mean, I don't know how anybody that's in the field for any length of time cannot see that there's something seriously. Well, maybe it's people have been kind of misled about when it comes. We talk about obsessions and compulsive
Right.
behavior, right? And what happens when we get involved with Bigfoot research, and it happens to all of us.
Right.
Happened to me too. It's like you start having encounters, or you start seeing these tree structures, you start seeing stuff,
Right.
signs and tales of something's going on. And next thing you know, you can't stop. You need to go out and out and out. Which, listen, I'm not knocking anybody who does that, because I know it's part of the process. But also understand that it is a form of possession. And what I mean by that, it might not be spiritual, or it might be at times, depends on who you are. But there's a possession of the mind in which it rules you to the
Right.
point where you forget about paying your bills, and And you know what I mean? You forget about your family and you're like, I got to get out there and go do field, Bigfoot research for the weekend. And next, your kids grow up and you miss them. And you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Well,
you
it's
have
no
to become a
different.
balance. It takes time, but you need to get that balance or this stuff
Right.
will own you. And it's a
There's,
part of
there, to me, there's really no difference between an obsession like that than there is an addiction, stuff like that, because it I mean, don't get me wrong, there's different levels of destruction involved with it, but you're kind of going along the same path. You're pushing
Oh, yeah.
everything aside except this one thing. I
Definitely.
kind of had that happen to me with the Brown Springs thing, because as I said, in fact, we were, and I'll tell you all this, we were having a team powwow, and unbeknownst to me, it turned into basically an intervention with me. Because I was going out there by myself. I had stated several times that it felt like something I needed to do. I had to do it. It was drawing me there. And they said, we don't want you going out there by yourself anymore. Because I used to do a lot of solo research out there. And there's
That's
some
all I
dark
have.
stuff out there. And, I did stuff that that place is notorious. A lot of people know it.
Only twice in all my research I've been with somebody else. It's always been by myself.
Yeah. But I'll go out there and
I'm not saying I'm not telling people to do that. Though. I'm just saying this.
right. I don't advise anybody to, but I was doing something different than a lot of people do. Not there are some people out there that do this. Shelly Montana is one of the bravest women I've ever met in my life. She goes out there and stays weeks at a time in the middle of nowhere.
Oh yeah, I know her. Yeah,
by herself. She's a very good friend of ours.
She wrote a book, didn't she? Yes, she did. I remember talking to her. This is way back. I mean, she didn't want to talk to me at the time, but I understand. I understand why. She was looking for shows to promote her book at the time.
Right.
So
she but anyway, we all sat down, we started talking. They said, we don't want you to go out there by yourself because we don't feel it's safe. And I would have never agreed to not do it. But I respect these people. And I knew it was coming from a place of love. And they had my best interest at heart.
Yeah, you did.
And so I agreed to it. I didn't want to. I enjoy going out there by myself, but I do something a little bit different than a lot of people do. Especially when I was doing it solo, I didn't go out there and wander around for a couple hours. Okay, I went out there and would stay days and nights at a time. Okay,
yeah. I would call that a pretty strong obsession, to say the least.
And I still do that. I'll still go out there I don't go out there just for a day. When I go out, I mean, we've got a trip planned. We'll be out there for 3 nights, 4 days, and 5, 4 nights and 5 days, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We stay out in the field. Versus a lot of other people that just go out there, roam around for a couple hours, and come back home.
Yeah.
We don't hear a noise and then, time to go.
Yeah.
We just don't do that. That's why we're out there,
Right.
I mean, I've had things, we've had things run through camp. We've had rocks thrown at us while we're sitting there in camp. We don't get up and leave. That's why we're there.
Right. And I don't know anybody that's actually been injured from that. Do you? I mean, there probably has been somebody, but I don't know anyone personally that had a rock thrown at them that they end up in the hospital or died. I don't know that. Do you?
I heard somebody talking about that they got popped in the head. I don't know them personally. I do know of an account of a man and his wife, and they got scared and they ran. And I'm looking forward to going to LBL War Criminal, and I'm going to do a solo out there too. But I would love to go out with you, brother.
Now, when you say solo, you're just going all by yourself. There's no support. You don't think you're, your better half or a friend with you. You just go. That's impressive. I said my problem, what I discovered for me, but carry on. I'm just going to interject real fast. For a guy like me, who is an ex-alcoholic and has extreme addictive personality,
right?
It is not good for me.
Exactly.
Because I know what I'll do. I'll run this to the ground for research. And also I discovered that I don't have to really, I can get just as much satisfactory evidence and results maybe going once a month than going every spare moment. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I have to if I have to fight this, I have to fight the urge, because I want, like today it was 52 degrees and sunny out there. Oh, maybe I should go out there and do some research. It's like, well, I'll try to deal with the issues, the computer issues, and see if I can get this going. So maybe I'll have this show with TEX'S tonight, and then there's MK tomorrow and stuff like that. So, and it's times I just like, man, I'm like stuck in front of this computer. I want to go out and do something. And, but I know for me, it is, I know what's going to come. I know myself. You gotta learn to know who you are. Some people can go out every weekend and they still can have their sanity and they still can be decent people. I know if I go all the time, I will become. I will lose focus on everything else. Like my son, for one thing, and paying the bills and doing the laundry, or I mean, that's who I am. So to each their own, but it is a form of possession, and whether it's actually spiritual and there's evil spirits inside me or not, that's something people that might want to argue about. But to me, it's just my character, who I am. So I think you got to go. No, shut up now. You go where you're at. I just wanted to bring that up. So, so I just want to say, part of this whole thing is like, if you are going that route and you know what I'm talking about, and it's not balanced in your life and you're taking over your life, that you might want to think about what you're doing, because at the end of the day, the truth will be discovered by all of us. And if you're hoping you're going to be the one, well, the odds, the one is probably going to be some 12-year-old kid that never even was thinking about Bigfoot, and he has a camera and is in the right spot, and you know what I mean? It's
right.
It's how it works, right? I mean, so don't kill yourself over this. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just it's like you said. You have to be careful. You have to, get a form of checks and balances for yourself. I haven't been out by myself in a long time. Ever since, they sat me down and they said, we don't want you doing this, it's because we care about you and all this kind of stuff. But it's just Brown Springs. In fact, it's just Brown Springs Cemetery. They don't want me going by myself to. The other places out there, they're okay with it because they know I can take care of myself. And, but I was going to go out a day earlier than everybody else was this last trip. And my wife's like, well, who's going with you? I said, just me. I don't like you doing that, right? I said, no, I did not know you did. You never said anything. So I'm like, well, let me reach out to some, a couple of people and see if they can show up. And I said, okay, I got company going. I got, she goes, well, I'm the only female allowed to go with you by yourself. And I said, well, you won't ever go with me. That wasn't a very good answer to that argument. So, there are some ground rules, and she keeps me grounded too. She's, she does support. She don't necessarily buy into this whole thing, but she knows I'm not lying. you know,
Yeah.
and I'll put it this way: she believes enough to when I ask her, "Hey, why don't you come out and go camping with you? You're always invited." I'm not going to that place. She's like, if it's out there, I don't want to know what's out there, because she loves camping, she loves fishing, all that kind of stuff. She don't want to get ruined. I get that, you know. And honestly, if we're ever out camping and stuff, and if I think there's activity around, I'm not going to say anything, you know, because I don't want her getting scared, you know. But
Yeah, I think it's how do you go about, yes, like my son, right? I brought up once, we were sitting, it was at night, wanted, a scary story, and I told him about one of my encounters with Bigfoot. He was so par ter- um, terrorized by it and scared. He started crying. He couldn't sleep. He had had the light on for 2 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, how am I going to deal with this? Because my son's, he's 11 and a half. And it's like, his dad like does like internet shows and research and talks about Bigfoot. And it's, it's embarrassing enough being his dad already. And now you got to talk about Bigfoot. I mean, how does that, this is a good conversation to go down. How has your better half dealt with this? Because it's inevitable that it's going to affect the relationship. It's gonna. I mean, there's no way of getting around it. So how does?
Well, when I first started getting into it, and I slapped a Bigfoot sticker on my truck, right? And she's like, "I'm never going to drive your truck to work."
I can understand why.
I said, well, there's a win right there, right? Then,
all right.
Then over the course of a few years, her friends would find out and blah blah blah, and she started having people come up to her and go, "That is so cool that he does that stuff. I'm so into Bigfoot and everything." People that she had never thought that would be into this kind of stuff, now they find out I'm into it. They're into it, and some of her coworkers watch the show. So and they want to go out. They want to go out in the woods with me and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, hey, come on, But yeah, it's.
Hey, while we're talking here, if anybody wants to join us, is it okay if they do? Text?
More the merrier, brother.
I figured if anybody's going to be cool with this, is text. Every show I watch with him, he's got 3, 4, or 5 people or whatever is on the show. So if any of you guys are interested and want to join us in the conversation and share and get to know Tex, like Jared, this is a good opportunity for you to join in. Just curious. I'm not being rude. Oh, God, I don't mean to be rude. I'm just, who else is with us right now? Oh, gosh, what's her name? Brandy. Sorry, Brandy. I got a memory of a. Actually, a Nat has a better memory than I have. So, Brandy, if you want to join and talk and share with us, part of your journey with Tex and what is it like to be hanging with Tex and all this stuff.
You don't want to hear all that.
Well, we do. We saw, these shows are all about getting to know the guest and who you are. And I know we haven't even talked about his encounters yet, but, I just like, sometimes, I don't know, I guess it's also therapeutic to talk to someone that, they've had encounters,
Mm-hmm.
They have experiences and, and I'm now speaking for myself. You just talk to a fellow experiencer and because it's just cathartic, it's just therapeutic. It's not necessarily you have to share the story over and over again about what happened, of the encounters. As much as that is important to get out. But I think it's just the camaraderie and just be able to say, listen, these are different facets and what's going on in our lives when it comes to this, because it's much deeper than I was scared once, it was terrifying, 6 years ago, and it changes. It does, doesn't it? It does change your life, doesn't it?
It does.
I mean, there's no way getting around
you
it.
know,
There's
the
no
thing
way
about
getting
it
around
is, when my first experience wasn't even a Bigfoot. I mean, and I'll tell you something. You think people think you're crazy pardon me, think you're crazy talking about Bigfoot. Throw Dogman at them when there wasn't even the term Dogman. I didn't know anything but to call it a werewolf. I ran into that when I was 16 years old, and that's what really kind of opened my eyes to there's stuff out there that ain't supposed to be there. And then
a lot of different things.
yeah, and then I put a lid on it and moved on and everything, and fast forward to 2016, 2015, whatever it was that I first reached out with my story to somebody, and found out, well, I'm not crazy. There's other people seeing these critters, There's a lot of words that explain to describe you, Brandy. Yucky ain't one of them.
Well, you don't have to show your face if you're worried. If you're not all made up, you can always, it's audio, so use your avatar. So
yeah, I'm good for about another 15 minutes. My grandson's over, and
yeah, I am okay. For the problems once again, 55 MS, prostate, and so about 10 more minutes before I'm going to have to run to the bathroom anyways. Doesn't get any better, man, as you get older. So I want us to do a second one if you're so willing to. I know we haven't even got into the encounters and all that. I know probably, geez, that's what I want to hear. But yeah, I just really got a chance to talk to Tex last Wednesday, and it was the same thing. We spoke about this length of time, didn't we?
Yep.
And that would have been one heck of a good conversation to record too.
Yeah.
Except there's a couple of points I guess they're probably would better off not because of personal things, but personal things, I'm not talking about some things that don't need to be shared. What I'm saying is,
well, they don't need to be aired out in the public. I mean,
right? They're more to deal with the Bigfoot community and experiences and that kind of thing.
Right.
So, but saying that, I really like Tex. I think that we've gel well. I think we do, and I think that like MK, the reason why I do shows with MK is because we just kind of just do it. You know what I mean?
When you talk to MK, tell him I said hi.
I will. I will be talking to him tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and yeah, I like it too. I mean, it's laid back. Maybe it's kind of that. You guys down south just a little more laid back than us up north, maybe. And no, not maybe, we are. So it's nice to have that because it's like for a lot of times a lot of guys you can talk maybe 10 minutes about maybe the experience or whatever, and then go into much deeper things. The things that in the end of the day are just as valuable and just as important. And that's honestly, I think that talking about life after Bigfoot is a really important topic.
Oh, I do too, because where do you go from, when you're not able to do that? And I've thought about that a lot because we're the same age, and I plan on retiring and just doing Bigfoot stuff. Because honestly,
where do you go from there, right?
If most of the researchers are completely and brutally honest, it is going bigfooting is another name for a camping trip. So
yeah.
I may not, I may get up there in years and I may not be able to walk around the woods like I can or something like that, but I can still go to these places that have activity and stay out there and really have these experiences because I don't have it. They come up and camp for goodness sake,
Yes.
So,
And it's not just them that come up to camp. I mean, it was me and Jared. You know, he was camping the boys up there in British Columbia, and they're around a bunch of the indigenous population over there. And he was, I'm sure you won't mind me saying that when they were camping, and about this, well, 7:30 p.m. Their time, Orb showed up, and then black figures showed up around the edge of the woods in the campfire, and they weren't all Bigfoot. In fact,
oh no, and that's
his
another
friend
thing
said they, he
that's
called
another
them
thing we need to
ghosts.
discuss. We need to discuss next time. Not everything we're seeing and dealing with out there is Bigfoot, and you think it is.
In fact,
You know?
I strongly believe that most of it is not.
Oh, I
And
do.
I think
so.
there's a couple things happening. The what we call Bigfoot, the Sasquatch, seem to have the ability or power to take advantage of this situation and exploit it. I can't keep up with your guys' comments. Um, uh, they exploit the situation, maybe use these things as a decoy, maybe, or as a distraction, and vice versa. Does that make
I'll
sense?
tell you. I don't mean. I'm sorry I interrupted you, but I don't want to lose this thought. Sheldon and Don out there, and Confessions and War Criminal, and all of you out there. If you've had an experience, share it with this fella. Get on this show, talk about it. You know, and if you
Yeah.
want to, come over and talk to us about it too. I'd love to have you. Because we may have. That's how we're going to learn, folks.
Absolutely.
Even if we think differently or believe differently, that we don't agree what they are, it doesn't matter, because I'm sorry, nobody knows exactly what they are. Or some people may know, but we're not privy to the information. Let me put it that way. So, but y'all, and also I
Well,
want
we
y'all,
can call it
everybody.
flesh and blood, spiritual, multi-dimensional beings. And by the way, it could be all that and much more. That's the problem.
Yeah.
As you say, we don't know. And but here's the thing, too, though, Tex, is that once you have these encounters and once it's in your blood, I mean, I know a lot of people that never even had an encounter and they become obsessed with this. But I can say, just for those of us who've had encounters and experiences, there's like no going back.
Right.
There's no way to go back. In fact, there's nothing else in life to top it. I mean, outside of, you know, when I was with my son's mother, maybe making love to her and being get to personal, maybe that was the thing that would top it. You know what I mean? As far as experience goes, you know what I mean? You were in the military, you had your experiences there, but none of that comes clear. I know it doesn't come close to what it's like, what the encounters and they call it, infection, maybe it's possession, maybe it is but whatever it is, it's like, okay, once you know there's something bigger in this world, it's kind of like when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I loved nature. I was always outdoors, which led me eventually, as an adult, building nature trails and bogs and wildflower meadows and all that kind of stuff, right? But as a child, this is my refuge. It was fishing and hunting and trapping and just catching, box turtles and snakes and frogs and salamanders. You know what I mean? That's hardly even around where I am anymore. But it's the same idea. It's like the quest, and there's something. It's part of our reality. It's part of us. It's like God in one way too. Now, don't take me wrong. Don't take me wrong. I'm not saying it is God, and I'm close to God, but it's like the obsession, the pursuit for God, to fill that hole that's in your heart. Then when you have these encounters, it's like, okay, now my world's rocked again, and where do I go with this? And it's just in a weird way, like I don't want to have another encounter again.
Right.
But I don't mind having sightings. Like I did have a sighting last fall. It was brief, and it's like, all right, they're still around, and that's along with the tree structures and everything else and the things I filmed. But it's like there's this obsession of knowing more about what the world really is. Do you ever try to figure out why we're doing what we're doing? Have you ever really, really honestly ask yourself, it's not just take away the oh, it's fun or I'm interested in it. There's something deeper going on with us and what has happened. What is the motivation? What is the drive? I mean, because it's like I have to fight it constantly.
Well, and I got to tell you, with me, I I love the experiences. I just do. I love when I'm out there. One, I feel when I do, I feel closer to God out there. Okay. Number two, I'm doing what I used to do when I was younger, out in the woods and stuff like that. Number three, it's the people that I'm with now. I've developed a lot of great friendships.
That part I might be jealous with.
And
If you had that group of people that network.
but when I was going out by myself, I just loved having the experiences, all of it, the paranormal, the Bigfoot, everything. I just loved it. You know, I mean, I would hear these things come up beside my camp, and I'd have this big ass crap eating grin on my face. You know, because I was like, this is awesome. How much it don't get no better than this. You know, I'm just sitting here, I'm just enjoying all this,
and if you're doing it with other people, I think that's awesome. That's a wonderful thing to have. I mean, there's a lot of us that don't have that, just to let you know. And it's really, I mean, I got one good friend that will go once in a while, but he's not really,
right.
He's not under the spell like I am. And then there's been meeting some wonderful people online, like Sheldon and Dawn. They're awesome. And Sheldon is awesome, I should say. But Dawn, I'm sure as well. I haven't really met Dawn. I know Sheldon quite a bit. So I guess my point is that it's really wonderful if you have that camaraderie and you're actually developing meaningful relationships with people and you're having that experience. That's a wonderful blessing, and I think that's. Am I envious of it? I don't know. Some people are meant to be lone wolves.
Yeah.
Some people, I think so. I'm more like the wallflower. I like the dude that's reaching out to other people, making contact, talking to a guy like you, MK and others, making kind of a friendship. Hopefully make a safe place where anybody wants to go and say, Mike, there's even deeper stuff going on than you imagine. And I can go, yeah, I know. That's what I've seen too. We don't talk about because I but I hope that that's what we can do with the next level is to say, can we talk more deep about this stuff too? There's different levels of understanding. There's some of us that truly have graduated from, Sasquatch Chronicles, not to knock him. I think he has a very important role in all this as far as introductory level of the people and let them know they're not alone when they have these experiences. But then we must go further. We have no choice. If we don't go further, it will plague us anyways. There's no escaping this. I know I said this like 50 times now, but it's the truth. If you've had these encounters and experiences, there's no escaping this. There's none. You can put your head in the sand and try to pretend like so many other things in life, but when you have real encounter experiences, as much as you want, and I know people that I known who have self-destructed or know of who self-destructed through alcohol and drugs and other things in order to forget their experiences and what has happened. You can't. So the next thing to do is find some way you can have therapy. Another thing that's cathartic and therapeutic is to talk about it and find groups of people to do it. I think that's one of the reasons why I keep being pushed back into this. As much as I try not to. I keep coming back to this subject because it really did happen to me.
Right.
And it did, and it didn't just happen once. And the way it happened, and I just think this is an extremely important for two levels: the research level and understanding, and then there's other the therapeutic level of having these kind of conversations, because it's the only way to survive. If you don't do this, then I mean, I know a guy like me. I mean, I'll sedate myself in some other way. Like I'll just be concentrating on, oh, maybe the Vatican, just to throw it out, right? And just all the evil that comes out of there, and I'll just spend, and I'll know everything I can about that. And there'll be a group of people to talk to, but usually they're religious people. And then once I tell them more about me, then they reject me, and I'm just like, I think the only people that really actually truly accept me are other experiencers. Does that make sense?
I don't. You know what?
Not all of them, but just enough. Those ones who they've seen enough to know that there's something more than flesh and blood. And it's not about a camp. It's about a brotherhood or a camaraderie. Am I wrong about that?
No. Well, I think, unfortunately, there is it's very cliquey. You know, the community and everything. For one, that is a. Yeah, but that's just it's going to be that way. It's human nature. You're not going to get you're not going to get over that. But I think there are also ways to bust through those walls and get through. But when you relating to people that haven't had a Bigfoot sighting is tough. Because you're betting on the people to be open-minded enough, now somebody that's had a UFO sighting or a paranormal experience, something like that, you do have some common ground there, although I do know somebody that saw a UFO and tells me that Bigfoot is BS. So,
Well, what do you do for guys like me who have seen UFO and Bigfoot? I mean,
hey,
and filmed. I got an image that I'll show you someday. The other people have seen it. Image, and it looks like an alien standing next to a Bigfoot. And I'm not talking about the pareidolia fuzzy stuff. I mean,
right.
I'll share it with you. You'll see the video. Sheldon knows about it. Other people who witness. It's a Bigfoot standing next to a. But I would say better yet, materializing next to each other. Gotcha. I wouldn't even call it standing there. They're materializing next to each
other. I mean, I don't agree with, Sasquatch Confessions' view on Bigfoot, but doesn't mean we can't have a conversation that's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah. Jared's he's a really nice guy. He's a good guy, man.
But because, like I said, I've got good friends that we don't see eye to eye on it, but we're open enough to be able to have a decent conversation, and unless people are from both sides of the, okay, let's take the apers and the woo side, and I really need to find another word for that. If you can set two people that that are dead set in their camps, but are open to having a conversation with the other one and being able to go, I never thought about that. Yeah. That's all you need. But so many people are going, well, I know these Bigfoot are like this and they all behave this way and blah, blah. How do you know? You're stuck up in the Pacific Northwest. I'm down here in Texas, and you're trying to tell me that they do the same thing? I don't think so. You know what you saw, you know what you experienced. Isn't that enough? Just because the ones I saw are behaving a little different or do something a little different or appear different doesn't mean there's some, It's like, just
Uh,
talk, just
I think so.
just
The more
because
you talk and you research it, you cannot come to, well, at least I have come to the conclusion that we're dealing with the multiple facets here, multiple things, and multiple circumstances. You can't put anything in a box. The moment you do that, you're going to miss out on 90% of the rest of the stuff. So I do believe that there are flesh and blood beings out there from my own,
Mhm.
what I've seen. At least that's what they appear like, and they do make something makes those tree structures, and whether it's them or not, I don't know because I haven't seen them yet. But when I see them, there seems to be there always is tree structures around. So is it them and some other things? You start asking these questions, you get honest about it, and you're like, it goes all over the damn place.
Oh,
I
it
mean,
does. It does. And when you talk about tree structures, to me, I'm not big on tree structures, but I'm not going to say that I haven't seen some that are going, okay, well, there's no other explanation for that, but it has to be either, it has to be very intricate for me, and it doesn't have to be big. I was down in Mineola, Texas. I went walking around by myself out in the state park where they had activity, and at night, and literally ran into one. And it was nothing. It was on they were only about this big around. It was two saplings, and they were pulled over like this, and they were intertwined in each other. They hadn't grown that way. Now that's a key thing. They
right,
had
right,
not
right.
grown that way. Because
Yeah.
if trees touch, they'll eventually grow into each other. Okay. But you can tell the difference. Okay. Because they're going to leave marks on each other if they grow into each other. These had been woven, they had been pulled over and then woven. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally walked smack into it. And the other people were back at camp about, maybe 150 yards off, maybe. And I thought, man, I got to show this to everybody. How the hell am I going to mark this thing? And I had a flashlight with me that I borrowed from Randy. And I thought, okay, I'll put the flashlight in. I put the flashlight in the crook of a tree, pointing towards camp, or towards the trail, because I had went off trail. And how the hell am I going to find this thing in the dark? And all I had with me was a flashlight, and so I had to make my way back to camp, back to the trail in the dark. Well, I ended up finding a armadillo hole the hard way, and but I did make it back, and I brought everybody back, and there was pictures taken of it, and everybody's like, man, this is crazy. I said, I know. I said, it's me bringing and it happens very rarely, me bringing a tree structure forward to somebody to show, because it was so convincing to me. The big ones, to me, a lot of the big ones can be explained away, but when you've got root balls up in the air, when you've got trees that were broke and were obviously taken from another area and brought over, and it wasn't flood damage, it wasn't, because down in Brown Springs, unfortunately, that's a floodplain down there. There's a lot of tree structures that you really got to just walk right past them, because these big trees can be washed from further downstream. You have to look at the mud lines, you have to look at all this different stuff. But when you find one that you go,
For sure, 100%,
yeah,
is manipulated by something that had opposable thumbs or something. It had something
right,
outside manipulated it. It wasn't anything to do with weather or water. Yeah, when you do see those things, you're like, my research primarily has been in my town, in my community, close to civilization, right?
yeah,
And I'm shocked how much of what I've filmed and seen
Right.
And I mean, so I can only imagine what it is for you guys out in the deep woods, if especially those that have trained eyes, what you're seeing, because I mean, and there's a point you can determine where that could have been the wind or that could have been accidental.
Right.
And it's like, well, there's no way that there's next structure here, and then there's another structure on the other side of the trail or there, and then there's and okay, and it goes on, right? The tree leans
Right.
and the tree breaks, and man, either we just had the most major storm, and you look up we didn't have any storms.
Right.
So what the hell took that? And we go on and on. But what made that damn teepee structure? What made those giant tree axes? What made, that's the question I have. Now I know I guess universally we say that it's Bigfoot's doing it, but I can't honestly say that it's solely Bigfoot doing it.
Okay. Let me say this. Okay. The footprints that we cast, the tree structures that we see, the fingerprints, the handprints that I've got, okay, all of that, whether it hurts to say it, but it's just circumstantial evidence.
It's true.
Because the difference between circumstantial and hard evidence, is, okay, I see the footprints in the snow. They're 22 inches long. There's there's very few humans on the earth that can make that footprint barefooted in the snow out in the middle of nowhere. Okay. I didn't see a Bigfoot make the prints. Therefore, it is substantial. It is nothing but circumstantial evidence. Now, because you didn't see what made the footprints. If you saw the thing making the footprints, that's evidence. I mean, that's what do you call it? Not circumstantial, but hard evidence. You know what I'm saying? But
because it's like, you see the witness to a crime.
You can assume what did this, and it's enough for the law to convict somebody. We've got enough evidence to we could have set Bigfoot in the electric chair a long time ago. But
then there's that 90%. That's what I'm saying is the 90%, which we don't know what their involvement is along with Bigfoot. And so let's just say Bigfoot, let's say Sasquatch has these kind of mystical, spiritual powers, magical powers. They know how to interact with these spirits and manipulate the spirits to help them in the creating of it. Is there a possibility? I think so. I'm not saying it's so. I'm just saying there's a possibility because I'm filming things and seeing other things and other people are seeing. I mean, and I one of the things I'm observing that there over and over again that a lot of people are having experiences, and it seems more in the line of poltergeist behavior than a Bigfoot behavior. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because that's like I say. The two daylight sightings, now the Dogman sighting, of course, but the two daylight Bigfoot sightings I've had, one nighttime sighting, and when I was getting pebbles thrown at me through the tree line, those four things are in my mind. I'm convinced they were physical creatures, but can they be wrote off as paranormal? Of course they can. Of course they can. It's just how you determine how what you feel is, but.
Well, here's a crazy idea. It's just an idea I'm going to throw out. I'm not saying it's so because no one knows, but okay, say Bigfoot sees the back, because a lot of times we don't, we hear the rocks. I mean, I've listened to pebbles too. I know, I'm not saying it's the same. And I've heard a massive rock throw down into this creek. I mean, there's nobody around. And when I looked and see where I went to, there was nothing there. So at least I could see with my eyes, right? So let's just say the Sasquatch has the ability to maybe manipulate with some of these elemental spirits or something like that. So it just tosses a rock, and they take it, and then they go. But the reason I say that is because from the distances, I know they're strong animals, right? But
Right.
let's think about it. There's 100 yards away, maybe. A lot of times it is like something like that, right? It's like 50 yards away, 100 yards away. And I mean, you're not hearing the arm and stuff, you know what I mean? Or you would think
Right.
there might be some kind of crashing from it, some level. And I'm just like, well, how are they tossing these pebbles so that no one's hearing them do it? And how can they be so? Because they are pretty accurate when you think about it. Because they're when you think about the number of times that people have been missed compared to being hit, you know that they're deliberate doing that. If they're missing it deliberately, so we're talking an immense amount of accuracy. I mean, it just starts to baffle the mind, is what it does, right?
It does. I mean, the night we had the pebbles thrown at us that I'm talking about, we could see them sailing through the tree line, and they would ding 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 off the branches, and then rain down in the camp, and they were even hitting the feller's hammock that he was laying in, and so I don't know. There's a lot of, I've been sitting at camp and I've had things walk up into camp. I've had things. This one time I was sitting there with Randy, and a shadow humanoid figure. That's all I can talk. That's all I can call it, because if I do anything else, it's just I wouldn't know what I was talking about. It didn't have glowing eyes or anything like that. I saw this thing appear out of the shadows on the other side of the campfire, and then melt right back into the shadows. Looked the next morning, and it was muddy over there. Not a footprint to be found.
And you know that, okay, so this is like an apparition, and more of an apparition than maybe a physical being.
Exactly.
But then again, it's imagine how much it was more of a shadow than it was. Did you see any details? It was just
Didn't see any details, but it was a solid black mass. So I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
But
let me ask you this question: when you saw it, was the black mass was at nighttime, right?
Oh yeah.
So we know about how dark it gets out there.
It was darker than dark.
Yeah. So that's what I'm talking about now, because I've seen that. Obviously, I know for a fact. And another thing I noticed too, that around the edges of it, it almost seemed electrical. It was like there's just a little tinge, like there might be something. That's what I noticed. It was just like there's just like a haze, electrical haze around it. Now, how does something that can be blacker? I mean, given the example of this, let me just use your image that I made. No, shoot, real fast, and then I know you want to wind up here, although I'm having to have a good time. So this you see here, right? So the black, right? You see how black that is? It's blacker than that. The blackness of this entity that I saw crawling up that ravine was blacker than the blackness of the night.
Right.
And how does something blacker than black stick out?
I don't know. It's strange, but it does. It's really weird.
And it happens. So, well, Tex, thank you for becoming a close acquaintance and hopefully a friend. And we have a relationship, because I think you're awesome as a human being and a man, from what I know of you so far, because I don't know everything about you, but what I know I like.
Oh, right back at you, brother. Right back.
And I appreciate all you guys over there, Rob and all the gang over there, and being God, I just went to Bigfoot.
Rob,
why is Rob's name of his show again? I just lost it.
Rob, Jason, Brandy, Aaron, and
right. And it's MBR. No, it's Michigan Bigfoot.
BMR, Bigfoot Michigan Rob.
I knew I was saying it wrong, and I've
And
been
then you got
listening to it.
then you
Listen,
got the
I
bronze
get
and
when it
blues.
comes to names, I get all befuddled with the MS. So BMR, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate Rob for introducing me to you. This Texas Front Porch, and you'll see the link in the description box. And if you haven't subscribed, it sounds like a few have, and you hear this, and I strongly suggest you do that. And you go over there and check out those guys. They're on all the time. They have some really interesting conversations. It's not always just about Bigfoot, believe it or not. There's a lot of things to talk about, and it's just kind of like to me, it reminds me of like family, extended family, like a group of people get together for they come and visit for a dinner or just like a family reunion type of thing, right? To get together and just talk. I think it's kind of cool.
Well, I
So I think
appreciate that.
you guys got a good approach to this and a platform. I think that I can't imagine you guys not growing, especially those that when they graduate from the scary story hour
Mhm.
thing. You know what I mean? They want some more. And they want to have a sense of community. I think that you're going to, at the bare minimum, you're going to set a good example for other people to start
Well, I
their own little
appreciate that. I really
community.
do. It means a
No, I
lot.
mean that. I'm not just making that up. So I wouldn't have
Well,
reached out to you if I didn't really see there was something special. You know what I mean?
well, I hope YouTube leaves this one alone for you.
Yeah. See if we can get it on Rumble at least or something.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about starting a few more channels, just more backup channels, and just. I know a few guys that do that. That's what that keeps them going. But all right, Tex. Everyone else, thank you. You guys have a great night. Thank you for spending your night with me. And may God bless you. And this broadcast.